Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and, well, get straight to the insights you need. Okay, picture this amazing turquoise waters, beaches that go on forever, uh, these lush hills with incredible villas. We're talking about Phuket. And just so we're clear, right from the start, it's pronounced Phuket. Yeah, not Phuket. That's how the locals say it. Good to know. Now let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into something really crucial, but maybe, easily overlooked when you're dreaming about that perfect property. We're talking about the world of property title deeds in Phuket. Our mission, basically, to help you figure out these complex documents so you understand what each type means, the security it offers, and why doing your homework, that due diligence, is just absolutely vital. We're pulling our insights today from a really thorough guide we found on the Ocean Worldwide blog. They're a luxury agency based right there in Phuket since 2004, focused on high-end stuff.
Yeah, and what's interesting, is how often the sheer excitement of finding a place, the view of the pool, can just completely overshadow the legal foundations. You're thinking about waking up to that ocean view, right?
Yeah.
But without understanding the legal ground you're standing on, that dream, well, it could get shaky. Understanding these deeds isn't just boring paperwork. It's genuinely the bedrock of a secure investment. Peace of mind, basically. It dictates what you can actually do with your property.
That makes total sense. So you mentioned the excitement, but just how critical is it to really, get into the details of these documents before you sign anything? What's maybe the biggest pitfall you see when people kind of gloss over the legal side in Phuket?
Oh, it's absolutely paramount. Scrutinizing those deeds is, well, it's everything. It's how you confirm who legally owns it, check for any mortgages or lead things that could affect your ownership, and crucially, verify the actual size and boundaries. The biggest mistake. Probably relying only on what the seller tells you, or maybe skipping a proper site inspection. And people often overlook zoning or environmental rules that could totally limit what you want to build or do there. I actually heard about someone who thought they had prime beachfront land. Turned out it was part of a protected nature area. Nightmare stuff. That's exactly why getting good legal advice is, well, it's non-negotiable. Think of a lawyer as your property bodyguard. They
Yeah.
navigate Thai law, spot the red flags, protect your interests, especially when it comes to things like leasehold versus freehold.
Okay, a property bodyguard. I like that. So it sounds like not all land titles are the same under Thai law then. What's the range we're looking at? From like super secure down to.
But less so.
Exactly. It's a spectrum, and understanding the differences is key because each title type carries different rights and, frankly, different levels of security for you as an owner. Let's start at the top. First up, you've got the Chanote, also called Nor Sorter 4 or NS4J. This is like the gold standard in Phuket. It gives you full, exclusive ownership rights. You can use it, sell it, transfer it, mortgage it. Basically, your ownership is undisputed. It's the definitive proof for government bodies, for building permits, registering long leases, that kind of thing. The catch. Well, Chanote land is highly desirable, so it can be scarce and usually costs more. But for that long-term security, that undisputed claim, many feel it's worth the extra effort and cost.
Right, the gold standard. Makes sense to be sought after. What's next down the ladder then?
Okay, next is the Nor Sor Sam Gor, or NS3G. You can think of this as being kind of next in line for a full Chinote title. The land for an NS3G has actually been measured by the land department. It has defined boundaries marked by concrete posts, which makes it much more precise than some others. And importantly, it is transferable and mortgageable, similar to a Chinote, especially if it's ready for that upgrade. Converting it to a Chinote involves an application process at the land department. It's not guaranteed, mind you, still needs due diligence, but it's a clear path towards that full ownership.
Okay, so Chanote is king, NS3G is the clear successor. What about something called a Norse or Sam? Is that still reasonably secure?
Ah, the Nor Sor Sam. This is where things get a bit more tricky. The key limitation here is that the land hasn't been officially measured by the authorities, so there are no exact legally confirmed boundaries. This, you can imagine, creates a real risk of disputes with neighbors over where one property ends and another begins.
Wait, so you could buy land and not know exactly where the edges are?
Precisely. That's why if you're looking at land with this title, getting a private surveyor involved before you buy is, well, highly recommended, just to get a clear picture. You can apply to upgrade a Nor Sor Sam to a Nor Sor Sam Gor, but it involves an official survey, registering new boundaries. It takes time, costs money. Plus, there are limits on registering legal rights. Getting building permits or mortgages can be tougher, and if you want to sell, there's a mandatory 30-day public notice period first. It's definitely a step down in certainty.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like it carries some significant risks. A guessing game with boundaries, not ideal.
Not ideal at all, and that's why understanding these differences is so crucial. Moving further down, we get to the Sor Kor or SK1. Now, this one's really important to grasp. It does not grant ownership rights. It basically just acknowledges that someone is occupying the land. Its use is typically limited to agriculture. And here's the absolute key point. They stopped issuing new SK1 documents back in 1972. And crucially, you cannot upgrade these to a Norsor title or a Chanote, ever.
So basically unusable for serious development or investment.
Exactly. It's very risky for any significant investment. You might be able to transfer the document itself, but you can't register legal rights like leases or mortgages against the land. It's just possession, not ownership.
Okay. And is there anything even below that?
Well, there's the Norsor song, or NS2. This is considered a provisional title deed. Think of it like a temporary permit to occupy land, sort of a placeholder, while the applicant works towards getting a more secure title, like a learner's permit for driving. To upgrade, you generally need to develop the land according to specific conditions set out that apply to the land department, get it surveyed. But it's not automatic. It takes effort, you have to follow the rules, and you need the land department's cooperation. And there are usually significant restrictions on what you can build and how easily you can transfer it. Getting a mortgage on NS2 land, very, very difficult.
Goodness, that's a huge range. From undisputed ownership down to basically just permission to occupy. It really hammers home that you can't just assume anything based on how the land looks. But what about properties that aren't just land? Like, say, buying a condo unit in a tower, or maybe just the house itself but not the land under it. That must work differently, right?
Absolutely. Those are distinct situations with their own rules. Let's take condominium title deeds first. When you buy a condo, you're owning your specific unit within the building plus a share of the common areas, the pool, gym, lobby, etc. You don't own the land the building sits on directly. The title deed for your condo specifies the unit size, its exact location, and importantly, your percentage ownership of those common areas. These common areas are managed by what's called a juristic person, basically the Condo Owners Association. And yes, you'll pay monthly fees for upkeep. Now, for foreign buyers, this is critical, the foreign ownership quota. Thai law limits foreign freehold ownership in any single condominium building to a maximum of 49% of the total unit space.
49%. So if a building is already 49% owned by foreigners, another foreigner can't buy freehold.
That's correct. They couldn't buy it freehold directly in their own name. They'd have to look at other options like maybe a long-term lease on the unit or potentially setting up a Thai company to own it, though that comes with its own complexities and costs.
Right. Okay. That 49% rule is a big one to remember. What about just buying a house, the structure itself?
Good question. This is where building transfers and house licenses come in, and it causes some confusion. Generally, buildings themselves don't have title deeds like land does. Condos are the exception. Owning a building is legally separate from owning the land it sits on. To transfer ownership of just the structure, you need proof, like a construction permit or a sale agreement for the building. There's also usually a 30-day public notice period at the land office. And here's a key point for foreigners. Even if you can't own the land freehold, you can legally own the building constructed on that land. The building transfer gets registered at the local district office, the AMFO.
So you could lease the land long-term but own the house on it outright.
Exactly. That's a common structure.
Yeah.
And one last thing here. The house license, or tabian ban. People sometimes think this proves ownership, but it absolutely does not. It's just an official register of who lives in the house. Think of it like a local census record for that address. It shows occupancy, not ownership title.
Okay, that's a really vital distinction, owning the building versus owning the land, and the Tabian bond just showing who lives there.
Got it. This leads us nicely into another big decision investors face, the whole leasehold versus freehold thing. Can you break that down for us? Sure. These are the two main ways you structure your ownership or rights to use property, and they have very different implications. Leasehold, as the name suggests, is basically a long-term rental agreement. In Thailand, leases on land are typically granted for a maximum period of 30 years. Often, these agreements include options to renew for further periods, maybe 1 or 2 renewals, potentially getting you 60 or even 90 years in total. But those renewals need to be clearly defined and legally sound. This is a very common route for foreigners wanting property in Thailand, especially land, because of the restrictions on direct freehold ownership we discussed.
So you're paying for the right to use it for a long time, but you never actually own the land itself.
Precisely. The main benefit is often a lower upfront cost compared to freehold, and it provides a way for foreigners to control property long term. But you absolutely must scrutinize the lease agreement. Key things to look for are the renewal terms. Are they guaranteed? How do they work? Also, transferability. Can you sell the lease? and any restrictions on, say, renovations or subletting.
Okay, that makes sense. And the alternative, freehold.
Freehold is outright ownership. If you own property freehold, it's yours indefinitely until you decide to sell it anyway. The big advantages are complete control, within planning rules, of course, the ability to leave it to your heirs, and generally, it's seen as having better potential for capital appreciation and resale value over the very long term.
But trickier for foreigners to get, especially for land.
Exactly. As we mentioned, foreigners can own condo units freehold, up to the 49% quota, and they can own buildings. But owning land freehold directly as a foreign individual is heavily restricted under Thai law. There are some exceptions and structures, like through specific investment schemes, or sometimes via a Thai company, but it's complex and needs expert advice.
So it really comes down to your goals, doesn't it? Long-term legacy versus maybe flexibility or navigating foreign ownership rules.
Spot on. You need to weigh the pros and cons, security, cost, control, complexity, your time frame, based on your specific investment strategy and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Right. So we've navigated this pretty complex landscape of titles and structures. It feels like there are quite a few potential pitfalls. What's the absolute bottom line then? If someone's seriously looking at a property in Phuket, what are the non-negotiable steps, the safety net, to avoid those nasty surprises?
Due diligence. It sounds formal, but it's basically just doing your homework thoroughly. It's your essential safety net. There are a few critical parts. First, verifying the land deed's authenticity. This isn't just looking at the paper the seller gives you. It means going to the official land department, checking their records to make sure the title is legitimate, matches the seller's claims, and reflects the actual property. You also need to check the land's history. Are there any registered disputes, any outstanding claims like someone having a right-of-way, an easement, or servitude across the property? You need to know if anyone else has legal rights affecting the land.
Okay, check the official records. Makes sense. What else?
Second, understanding the local zoning and environmental regulations. This is huge in Phuket. You need to check the city's own planning. What is this specific area zoned for? Residential, commercial, agriculture? Are there height restrictions, setback rules? Can you even build what you want to build there? Also, check for environmental restrictions. Is it near a protected forest, a national park, a watershed area? These things can severely limit or even prohibit development. You don't want to buy land for a villa only to find you can't build it.
Right, finding out after you buy that you can't build would be disastrous.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the third, and arguably the most crucial step, is engaging professional legal services. I know we mentioned it before, but bears repeating. This is not somewhere to cut corners to save money. Think of it as an investment in protecting your much larger investment. A good lawyer specializing in Thai property law will handle the title verification, check the zoning, meticulously review the purchase contracts, help with negotiation review surveys. They cover all the bases. They know the local system, they know the potential red flags, and their job is to protect your interests throughout the entire process.
Okay, so verify the title officially, check all zoning and environmental rules, and get a good lawyer. That seems like a solid checklist. We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From the gold standard Chanote all the way down to provisional titles and looking at condos, owning buildings separately, plus the leasehold versus freehold debate, and wrapping up with that crucial need for due diligence. It's really clear that understanding these details isn't just academic. It's fundamental to making smart choices and, well, reducing risk when you're investing in a place as amazing as Phuket.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we sort of zoom out for a final thought, understanding these specific legal details, it's not just about avoiding problems, is it? It's really about building a secure foundation for true ownership, for lasting value, whether it's in Phuket or anywhere else in the world. Which kind of raises an interesting question for you, the listener. How does understanding these kinds of specific legal distinctions, like ones we discussed for Phuket, change how you might look at property investment opportunities globally? Every market has its quirks, right? Knowing what questions to ask is maybe the most valuable takeaway.